everybody, Brian Holder here, WYSIWYGpages.com. Going to be doing a tutorial today on the user login tools and some of the fun things that we can do with those. It's going to be a little bit of a lengthy tutorial, so sit back and enjoy. What I'm looking at here is a basic website layout. This is my 1160 grid, and what we're going to do is add in a few of these tools now. So the first thing I like to start with that you need to start with here is the admin panel. So in your toolbox, you'll have a section called Login, and there's a tool called Admin, and you're going to drag that out on a page. The page that I've chosen, I created a page called Admin. It does need to be a PHP page, so I'll go ahead and convert that to a PHP page. And to do that, you're going to want to right-click, Page Properties, and you can change it within the Page Properties right here, File Extension PHP. And we need that to execute our PHP code. And once you have that, we're going to double click on that to bring up some of the properties. And we have several different properties here we're looking at. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so that I can really see it. Alright, so the first section of properties that we have is the appearance and how we want that to appear. I'm not going to mess with that for this tutorial. This is more for functionality. But feel free to edit this any way that you see fit. The next section we have is behavior. So when you first log in, the screen will be protected by a password. You can change what that is. For the demonstration, we're going to leave it at password. It'll be the password, but you can certainly feel free to update that as needed. You have this other section here. It's called custom profile fields, and that's pretty handy. We'll get into that in a few minutes, but we're going to talk a little bit about that. Frame name and session timeout, you can leave those the same. I've never changed the frame name. That's fine. Session timeout, that is the time in seconds that's you can have the user logged in for that's using the admin panel. And after that, a certain amount of time, they'll be forced to log in with the password again. I usually just throw a bunch of zeros on there so it stays logged in for a while. Okay, and the next section we have is database. There are several different database types that we can use. Well, two actually. We can use a flat file, or we can use the MySQL. MySQL is great if you want to use a MySQL database. However, when we get into doing custom profile fields, it will only allow you to have 5 additional fields. So if you want to collect things like a full address, a phone number, that won't be possible because there's just not enough fields for it. When we do a flat file, however, we can have as many fields as we want. So we're gonna build this using a flat file right now. And so what we have to do first is create our database because it doesn't exist just yet. So important thing to keep in mind is that when we create the database, you can name it whatever you want. I just leave it the same just because it's easier. And you're going to go into your hosting here. You have to have that set up, your FTP first. And I'm going to go in and I got to find our folder. And what's important to remember is that this database file needs to be in the same folder as the rest of the member site and anything that's going to be protected. So I have everything inside of this folder over here. It's called members. And so that's where everything's going to be stored at. And this is actually going to be... I backed out of that, I apologize. Bulk HTML, build, testing, and I have to create this members folder. It doesn't exist yet. Alright, and that's where we're going to save that. We just hit finish, and you get a little prompt that pops up that says data file successfully created. Okay, that's good. Now what we're going to do is go through and build out a couple of custom profile fields. So we'll just say address, and I'm here in the States, so I'll format my address for the United States. City, postal, or no, state, postal. Say I want a phone number. Maybe I want to track what type of user this is, so we'll say account type. And we can change this. You can either have a straight text or a drop-down option. So for my account types, let's say I want to have an administrator. A subscriber. Maybe we'll have a manager. Okay. And we'll just do something fun like favorite color. And we hit OK. And that's it. This is all set up now. So first thing we're going to want to do is go ahead and publish this out. And we're going to create our first user once this is published. Alrighty. So we'll load up the page that we just published. And there it is asking for that password. Password is the password. Don't want to save that. And we're going to create our first user, who's going to be me. So we'll do username Brian Holder. I have a password I use, so I'll just leave that the same. Email, boom. I'm an administrator. My favorite color is 00468C. And I am active. Go ahead and save, and just like that, I'm in there. I'm in the database. I now have an account. All right, so the next thing we're going to want to do is create a members page. Well, let's do this. Let's go ahead and clone this and create a separate login page. So we'll just call this login.php. And we're going to drag out a login form. And if you have that database set up correctly and you didn't rename anything or move it around, then all you have to do literally is just drop this form and you should be good to go. That's it. Some of the options you have for this form, of course, you have the styling options. And we want to set the destination page to our members page. Okay. So when somebody logs in successfully, they will be directed to that members page. You can also, alternatively, you can set up a error page. So if the user enters the wrong username or password, they're sent to that page. And then there's different styling options. You can style the background, this title bar here, all that kind of stuff. But I'm just going to leave it as is. I'm not going to worry about styling for this. And the members area, once the user's logged in, maybe we have something like a profile thing where they can edit their profile. And what we'll need to do is add in those custom fields now. So again, we have all kinds of different profile options. The access denied page, if the user is not logged in, or we're going to send them back to the login. Okay. Destination page, when they do successfully upload, I'm just going to send them back to this page. And collection, here we go. And now we got to add in all of those fields again that we had before. So we have address. I'm going to go ahead and add these in. I'm going to pause the video and I'll be back in a second. Alrighty, now we're back again, and all I've done is just went ahead and added in all of our fields that we had on our user administration panel. You want to make sure that the title stays the same as it is over there. And we're going to go ahead and add. Oop, I'm not add, I'm sorry, hit OK to finish that up. And that's it. Now that's in there. So once you hit OK and exit the property, you see all the additional fields that we filled out get populated into this form. And so what we'll do real quick is go ahead and publish this again. And we're going to give that a little test. Should publish pretty quick. It's a pretty light site so far. Alrighty. And I actually have to, well, this should, let's see if this flops us over. Yep, send us right over to the login page like it should. So my info is already in there, so we'll go ahead and log in. And here we are. You can see all my information that's in that database is in there. Now let's say, you want somebody to be able to edit their profile, but let's say maybe you don't want them to edit their account type, right? Or perhaps you don't want them to edit their username. You want the username to stay the same. Well, let's talk about how to do that. and some other fun things. So once we have this set up, and you got to make sure that this is set up the way that you want it right before you do this. What we're going to do is convert this over to a form instead of a login tool out of the toolbox there. But you want to make sure that you have everything set in your settings here before you do that. So if you want to add in an access denied page or the success page, you want to make sure you do that. Don't worry about the styling as much because we can change that once we convert it to a form. It's mainly just the functionality features. You want to make sure those are all set. So to convert it to a form, we just right click over the element here, and we have this option at the very bottom, says convert to a form. And we'll convert it to a form, and now it's a form. So first thing you'll notice is that there's a whole bunch of gobbledygook. I moved that element on accident. A lot of things that say PHP echo and a whole bunch of code. You may or may not know what that means. If you don't worry. It's not a big deal. But now if this is a form, we can actually play around with some of these user profile, some of these elements, because they're all just edit boxes. So first thing we're going to do, I'm going to come down to favorite color. And I'm going to change that from a text field to a color field. Okay. And let's say, for instance, username, we don't want them to edit that username. We want it to be a fixed thing. When we come into it, we just select read only. That means the user won't be able to change that field. Okay. And let's say account type, we don't want them to change that, nor do we want them to see that. You know, if they're a subscriber, then why should they see options or see anything for anything besides what they are? So we can actually go ahead and delete that entirely. And that's something that'll be stored in there that you can use to filter out different pages for different users at some point, and it's something that they don't see or have access to change. And of course, you can also change the formatting of this if you want to, you know, put the state and the postal code next to each other and make the field a little bit smaller. That's certainly something you could do. We'll just resize this a little bit. Okay. And that's the nice thing about having this in the form. We have a little bit more flexibility to kind of edit and change the appearance and do some things with it. And you'll see that this little HTML box appeared when you did that. And this is what contains all of that back-end code that the site needs to connect to the database and make the changes within the database. So just leave that alone. You can resize it and move it if you want to get it out of the way, but don't edit anything that's in there. Just especially if you don't know exactly what you're doing, just leave it alone. Okay, so the next fun thing I'm going to do, well, let's talk about, I'll tell you what, let's talk about CMS here. So we have these CMS tools, and we haven't used any of these so far. These are primarily if you're going to use the content management system. However, if you want to display any of the information that's within the user's account in their database, you can actually use the CMS label. It will work. And what we can do, let's say we want to have their name, and we want it to be really big. What we can do is just drop in the variable for their full name. And if you're not sure where that is, well, that's going to be right here in that line. And so what we need to add into here is everything that's after the $, between the $, and the semicolon. So for instance, if we want to display the user's name when they're logged in, we'll hit $, DB _ full name. Now there is a tool to display the full name, but this one works as well, and this one will allow you to display any of this information and format it however you want. So we're going to just remove that silly border, maybe make it big, maybe give it a blue color. Okay, so now when the user logs in, their full name will be displayed right there. Okay, so that's one way to show some of these variables that are in the database. And I'm going to show you something kind of fun now. Here's why we chose that color. I'm going to drag out an HTML area. And I am going to do a little bit of coding right at the moment, but that's quite all right. And I'm going to resize this to the size I want it. So we're going to do 1140 by 300 is the size that I know I want. You can play around with that if you need to. And I'm going to write a tiny bit of code in here. So I'm going to create a div, which is just a container, basically. And style. Let me give it some style. Close out the div. Alrighty, and the style I want is background color. And I want that background color to be equal to the favorite color of the user. So I'm going to PHPE. And if you don't want to write out this code, this PHP code, you can just go down and copy it out of the field. Copy and paste. PHP echo. And this was DB extra 7 was the name of the field that they called it for the favorite color. And then we got to close out our PHP. And then close that out. And now I want to set the size. So width 1140 pixels and the height 300 pixels. Okay. And now what I'm going to do is I have a kind of an opaque see-through type image overlay. I'm going to dump on top of that so that way it'll be their favorite color with this kind of fancy design over top of it. Alrighty. And let's go ahead and publish this and check out our site so far and see what we've done with it. Give this a second to publish. Take a little bit longer now. We're starting to load graphics in here. Okay, should flop us over to the login unless my session's still active, which my session is still active. So you can see immediately, since I already have my favorite color programmed in there, you'll see that that color's in there. You'll see that my name is being displayed because we are echoing that value of that field into that object. And you can see that the favorite color, when you come down and click on it now, it brings up a color panel that the user can easily change their color. It's not that default, text field because we were able to change that from text to color in the settings. So if I wanted to change my color, I pick a new color, I can click update, and bada bing, bada boom. Now my profile cover picture is a different color. And we can do that again. Hit update, and there's our new color, and we have that little graphic overlay over top of it there. So with that being said, there's some other fun stuff we can do with that. I'm going to jump down here and just grab this little bit of code so I don't have to type it out again. And I'm going to go to Tools, and I'm going to go to the Style Manager. And I have a favorite color in there, but let's go ahead and we'll just add a fresh one here. So we'll say profile name. Well, we'll just call it profile name. That's all we need to say. So for custom styles, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop in color, which is the CSS for this, and put in that PHP echo. We got to close it out with a semicolon at the end. It always has to end with a semicolon. And then we can come down to the text area, and we'll stick with Arial for now for the font color. Font size, what do we have, like 30 something, 36 maybe? Don't select anything for the color, leave that blank. I would just focus on the font type and the size, and then you can make it bold if you want. So we'll do that. And now what we'll do is we'll come into our object here, style. And we're going to, instead of worrying about styling it down here, we're just going to pick a predefined style. So we'll call it profile name. And you'll see all these fields get grayed out because it's going to get all of its styling now from that style we just created. Okay, so it's going to show up as black, but here's what's going to happen. Once we publish this and we preview it, that user's name is now going to show up as their favorite color as well. So it's kind of a fun way to let the user customize their experience or customize their profile to their liking. So once we preview this, we should have that color in that kind of army style green that we had. And that didn't, oh, I guess that didn't work. Well, that's interesting. I'll tell you what, let me troubleshoot that real quick and I'll start the video up in a second. Alright, so apparently I was incorrect on that. I got it fixed and working. I did a test earlier on a regular text object and I was able to do it that way, but apparently that does not work the same with the label object. But here's what we did to fix that. So the first thing is we'll go back to our style manager and we'll go to that custom style we made, and you're going to want to just remove that line of code completely. And everything else stays the same. Just basically what we're trying to do is pass some style over to that element, but we don't want to include a color, a default color. So we want to leave that blank. And then, so all we really want to tell it is whether or not we want it bold, italic, the font type, and the size. Okay. And then what we'll do is we right click, and we want to go to Object HTML, and that's where we're going to insert that custom style. So this is what we had in the style, but this is what we're changing it to. Alrighty, so I've already published this, so I'm not going to go through that effort again, but you'll see you can change the color now. Let's do something wacky. It's kind of an ugly color there, huh? And so now we have that updating. So those are some of the fun things we can do with profiles and creating login tools and using the different tools. Just to go over a few other things real quick, if you have other pages on your site that does not have, if you recall, the option for this had a error page or a access denied page. If you're on other pages of your site that do not have the edit profile or other login tools on them, you can grab the protect page element and drop that onto any page of your site, including your master frame. And that'll just give you that quick access denied page if it's something that's supposed to be protected. Users who are not logged in will be, flopped over to a different page. And you can also restrict that page per user. So if you have, let's say our admin page here, let's say it's one thing that we have that password, but it's not really secure. Let's say you want only one user to specifically have that, and that's you. Then all you got to do is go in, drop in our protect page, and then just literally type out the username that's allowed to have access. Now anybody who's not that username will get redirected. If you have multiple usernames that you want to have access, you just separate them by a comma. Okay. And then we have several other tools here that we can use. So we have a password recovery. So if you have your login page and somebody cannot remember their password, who doesn't know how to log in, you can have a little link that says forgot password, send them to a page with this element on there, and they'll be able to recover their password by entering the email address that they registered with. The system will automatically email them a temporary password to get them in, to get them back into their account. There's a registration sign-up form. This is similar to our edit profile form. It's almost exactly the same, except this is going to inject a new data into the database, creating a new line instead of editing an existing line. Same goes for the custom profile fields with this. We'll have to set up that library manually, so you'll have to type all those back in. And there's several other options in here that allow you to automatically create the account. Administrator means that when the user creates the account, they won't have access until the administrator approves them manually. And email verification will, once the user creates the account, an email will be sent to the email address they provided for them to log in and activate it. That's probably the most common way to do that. Probably the best way to do that. It prevents a lot of the spam and the automated sign-ups and stuff. Several other fields for how you want the labels and how you want errors to appear. Again, destination page, once they create their account, you can send them to a page that says, please check your email. Your account's been created. Please check your email to verify it. Or you can send them to a login page if there's no verification. And of course, we have all of our styling options down here at the bottom. And we have email. So this is, you would put in your email address if you want to receive a notification when somebody signs up. And then the from, This is going to be anything, so I usually use support, and you're going to want to type in your domain name, and that's the email address that it's going to appear from when the user signs up. It's going to come from support@domain.com, and the message for them, and the subject of that email. Anything after this line is going to just show the username, the password, and it may, I don't think it does. It's not going to show a login URL. It's just going to give them their credentials. So it's just a quick little message that goes before that. And again, like I said, we have some styling options here to change the style of that form. And like all the other forms, this can be created to a actual form, which, you may want to do that, you may not, it depends on how you want to design it. Say you don't want that label and you'd rather have the label inside of here. So you can put initial text, full name. Have it appear inside like that so that it disappears when the user highlights it. And that's about it. So if you like this tutorial, please give it a thumbs up, like it, and I will catch you guys on the next one. I appreciate your time. Thanks.